of the Scotland County Planning and Zoning Board. I'd like to call meetings to order. We do have a quorum. As always, I'd like to remind everybody that be reminded that the purpose of this board is to protect the health, safety, and well-being of the citizens of Scotland County. We do have some amendments to make to some of the meeting minutes. And first one, and thank our county attorney for pointing these out, for the minutes for March 12th, 2024. In the first paragraph, that reads May 12th. That does need to read as March 12th. Ms. McQueen has noted that there are some missing pages there. She will make those amendments. We'll bring these minutes back to the next regular board meeting for approval. Minutes for May 15th meeting. I'm assuming everybody's had the opportunity to read those. Any changes to those minutes? Yeah, that's the one.
John asked to be recused and you voted in favor of it by consensus.
Yes. So we need to have by consensus in there. Any other changes?
I move that be approved as amended.
Jim Smith has made a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
John is seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The May 15th minutes are approved as with amendments. Okay, first on our agenda, new business.
Jim, should we welcome Billy Thomas first as a new member?
Yes, we should. Thank you. Billy, we are Billy Thomas, correct?
Yes, sir.
We are glad to have you on board. Have you been made aware of the terms? How long you can be on the board, how long a term
4
is?
years.
Pardon me?
4 years.
In 3 consecutive terms, 12 years is supposed to be, all you're supposed to be on there. County commissioners under special circumstances can amend that, but that's your regular 3 4-year terms. We have had people on the board for 20 plus years.
Yes, sir.
And we are missing 2 members who, Herman Tyson and Lakira, can't remember Lakira's last name,
Okay.
but they, I'm not sure where they are. Probably down at a bar at Myrtle Beach, drinking a beer or something, I don't know. Okay, first item on our regular agenda tonight is a rezoning application. This is for property that is on Old Wire Road, not too far from Seeds Grove Grocery and Grill. This property is currently zoned as C1. And I'm just real curious, anybody know why that was on C1?
It was done,
Years and years and years
in
ago?
1995.
That was probably the Sneeds for something. I don't
The
know.
documentation that I had just showed the map and it was from open space to C1. There was no reason why.
Okay,
And I have that file if anybody needs it.
I have taken a look at the maps and the documents. I'm assuming that everyone else has and is familiar with the tract. I'm not sure who owns the little house next door, but that was the Gentry Home Place, a small greenhouse for a while. And I think that's when somebody's been working on that house, hasn't they? I'm glad to see that. Do we have anybody here to speak for the participants that are wishing to have this rezoned?
This is my brother.
Do you wish to say anything?
No, this is how it agrees on.
Okay. Are there any questions, any comments about this rezoning request at all? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Daniel has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
John has seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. Wasn't that easy?
That's very
That's awesome.
easy.
Easier than what Brooke makes you, the hoops Brooke makes you jump through.
I don't know the color.
Yeah, once you've done all that.
Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great one. Be safe.
Bye.
Give Brooke just a minute to get back in. Katie, glad to see you here with us. How's Spine doing?
Huh? Doing fine.
At least that's how I know her.
Yeah, doing fine. She was gonna come, and I told her she didn't need to drive all the way from Charlotte down.
I inspected that little house. She's got a couple of lots from there and tried to help her clear that lot out, but it's a little bit more than my little tractor can handle. I did what I could.
Yeah, I remember. No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. Sorry for the little delay here. I guess Brooke's got something she has to tend to with them.
They're spinning in bread and blueberry muffins, if anyone wants some.
I told my family this meeting in the last 30 minutes. Are you making a liar out of me?
I'm so sorry.
You gotta go that long?
You gotta, when I see her start pulling those out, I'm like, uh-oh. She's never brought that to any other meeting.
To fix it quickly.
May end up being something for me, depending on how long you think.
I will try my best.
Talk fast.
Yeah, no. This one's actually mostly going to be you all, kind of your ideas, so. Oh, no.
Oh, have a good night. You too.
Okay, second item on the agenda tonight is, continuation from last month's meeting. And we do have, parties present to represent the persons wishing to rezone the property on, Peels Chapel Road. There is no specific address for this. We do have the property ID number. There are maps, there are pictures. And maybe I'm taking it that the duplex that's in here is similar to one that you are wishing to put up there. Well, we have all the paperwork, and do we have anybody, you're here to
I'm here to
represent?
answer questions if I need to, just to say that we'd like to get it rezoned, in order to put duplex there, probably,
It looks like you got signatures of all the neighbors in the area.
right.
We have pictures, everything looks like it should. And are there questions or comments about this application? If there are no discussion, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve it.
Daniel made a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
John has a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion is passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll get out of your
Good
house.
to see you.
Stay door and say hello.
I can get out.
Well, I gotta lock us in.
Oh, well, I can go out the back door so that I don't hold up, okay?
What's the,
Well, it won't hold, I don't wanna hold you all up, I don't you?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Take care. All right.
All right, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Now the fun begins.
Next order of business, Randy Dagenhart from Lumber Council of Government has a couple of comments you want to make.
can I ask a question before we proceed? Anytime, can I ask a question before we proceed to that?
Sure.
Anytime, someone comes for rezoning, they have to be present whenever it comes before the board. They don't have to be present, do they?
I think there has to be someone present at the meeting in case there's questions.
I think this
discussion?
one got delayed because there were questions. I wouldn't say it's absolutely never been done without somebody here, but
Right.
I think at the last meeting, there was some questions, I don't recall what it was, but
But
at least you had a representative here.
And that's why I asked, because I know the last meeting, there was some talk about some questions about it, but then there was no questions this time. So that's why I was asking, do somebody have to be here each time they do a rezoning? Because I don't recall every time somebody rezones a property that they have representation at the meeting. So I'm just getting
I don't
clarity.
think legally they have to be here, but I think probably, unless it's crystal clear, there's absolutely no question, you probably have to need somebody.
And it's just like, with someone representing our motions to the county commissioners. It is recommended that someone does that, but after 30 days, the county can act on it without any representation from the planning board there at all, which that's been done before. As a matter of fact, the 2 last solar farms, I was prepared for presentation, and they didn't call on me.
Right.
So, but after 30 days, we do not have to physically be present at the county commissioners. They can take care of business on their own.
I greatly appreciate you being here, but
Well, I'm glad you do, Ed.
I said they do.
Oh, well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell it from the last meeting.
I have a question. So let's use Mr. Willis, for example, with him wanting to rezone this property from residential agriculture to a residential. Would it be wrong if I were to inquire, I guess, like the use for the duplex? Let's say if I was curious if he wanted to use the duplex for low income housing, would that be a bad question to ask him, or am I wrong to, try and pry into?
That's probably going beyond anything that we would ever get into.
Okay.
The reason for it, that's one of the reasons that the state of North Carolina submitted new legislation several years ago, and all the counties and municipalities. Be glad you weren't around for that. It was a mess, but we ended up redoing all of our local county zoning ordinances, and the city, I think, probably did theirs too. But within that, and the organization that Ms. Dagenhart works with, Lumber River Council of Government, they led us through that whole process, and for good and sometimes for bad. It got a little testy, but we got new ordinance out of it. And within those ordinances packet, they pretty much cover just about anything that you could ask for, but they don't ask you whether it's gonna be used for a specific reason. As long as the application meets the criteria for that specific purpose, it should be in there, and we shouldn't have to question it. Now, at some point after that, if it is thought that a change might be made by the owners, if they wanted to do, was it Section 8 or something like that, or make it, then I guess you'd have to go through a particular government organization to get that classified. But that would not be up to us to do that.
When
We
you,
just approve the zoning.
when you rezone it to residential R2, the applicant's not actually required to do what he tells you he's gonna use it for. And he has permission to do any use that's permitted under the R2 zone.
Okay.
So, you know, there's a laundry list of things that are permitted under R2 in any zone. But he did give you the information about what he intended, and I suspect that's what he's gonna do with it. But you've made a good point, because there are a lot of uses under R2 that he could use it for, that, other than a duplex.
You wouldn't have to come back to us to change that.
No.
All right.
Randy?
Thank you. So just to introduce myself, my name is Randy Dagenhart. I work with the Lumber River Council of Governments in Pembroke, and I am helping facilitate a comprehensive land use plan for Scotland County. The land use plan is required under North Carolina General Statute 160D. It says that every county and municipality throughout North Carolina has to have an updated zoning ordinance and a comprehensive plan. So this is part of that, so that you all meet those requirements. And there's already a document that's been developed by a colleague of mine. I'm enhancing that document, and we'll be kind of reworking it to make it look more visually appealing as well. So part of the work we've already done is we've issued a countywide survey to the general public just to collect some regarding any changes or opportunities that the public sees for Scotland County. We've also had a few meetings just to kind of talk about the document itself and what next steps are. So tonight we'll be doing what's referred to as a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And typically in this meeting, the planning board is directly engaged. It's kind of like a hands-on activity style meeting. So that's why I brought all the sugar tonight, because we will need to really put our thinking caps on and think of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that are being faced by Scotland County. That can be in any areas like economic development, housing, infrastructure, protection as far as police and fire go. We've talked about that before. There's a variety of areas. General government structure, how the planning board functions, opportunities with marketing, things like that. I've included also at the end the goals and action steps. All of this will be included in your comprehensive plan. That's on page 4. Page 4.
Question.
Yes.
My bad. You said that there was a survey, I guess?
Yes.
What channels are being used?
So we've already issued the survey. It's closed now, but it was published on the Facebook, and then we also had paper surveys that were available throughout the county.
Okay.
And I can't remember the exact number of responses we got, but it was pretty comparable. It was actually a little higher than
217.
Okay, yes, so it was pretty comparable with Robeson County, even though it's the largest county. We had a number that was up there compared to them
And
as well.
like, is there data, I guess, on the demographics, whether it's age?
Yes, so that was, I think, one of the first 2 questions. What is your age? How long have you lived in Scotland County? I think we asked an employment question as well.
We'll get you a copy. She'll send it to you.
Yes, I'll follow up in an email and I'll get you a copy. I just need your email address. So we asked all those questions. Also in the comprehensive plan document, we will include demographic data just to kind of outline the current status of Scotland County demographically, and then to kind of help us better position ourselves for developing the goals and action steps. The demographic data that is kind of mirrored in the goals and action steps has a lot to do with employment data, or unemployment data as well, because part of the economic development aspect is recruiting new industry that would potentially create some more jobs for Scotland County. So how does that match with what we're currently seeing with unemployment? Also, housing stock is another big one. What's the age of the housing here in Scotland County, generally speaking? Do we have enough housing to meet any future demand as far as like new citizen or new people moving here to Scotland County? So all of that's included in the plan. But for the purpose of the meeting tonight, we're going to be developing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And these will be specifically referenced. And then we're also going to just review the goals. And I think the best way is to just follow up with the action steps. Ideally, this is done in some areas. It's great if it can be accomplished. Ideally, each action step would be assigned a responsible party and a timeline. So I've brought my example from Red Springs because that's another town I'm doing this type of project with. And one of their goals is to provide sound, healthy, and affordable housing for all residents at all income levels. And then one of the action steps under that, is to work with area community organizations to develop and market a series of workshops on home ownership, to encourage mixed-use development, and to review and amend the town zoning, subdivision, and manufactured home ordinances. So that's kind of how we assign action steps to goals. It's a lot, so I don't think we should try to take everything on tonight. I don't want to overwhelm you all. So as far as the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats go, we're going to kind of go around the room, and I just want you all to start thinking about what you've seen in Scotland County. Again, visual appeal, lack of housing, but try to think more specifically. I know the general issues and opportunities, but you all are residents of Scotland County, so I know very specifically about these things and give specific examples. One way you might do that, if there's like a large industrial building that is vacant, that would be something that we could put under the opportunity for like a reuse. So maybe you all could list that on your website for sale, and then hopefully some large industry would be interested in purchasing that building. So think very specifically about things you've seen in Scotland County in all of these categories. And I've put markers there for you. So if you just want to, whoever wants to get started, it's a hands-on. So.
I think some of the strengths, with having the time to think, like ties back into the historical aspects from the Scottish lineage that we could utilize. And then also the St. Andrews, RCC, UNCP facilities and organizations. The airport.
Okay. Oh yes, that's a big one.
The hospital.
Scotia Village.
Yeah. And then the location of Scotland County, Laurinburg, to the larger cities.
Geographically.
We're basically at the most 2 hours from every major city.
Halfway to the mountains, halfway to the beach.
Except for the mountains, so those some strengths.
Okay.
I'm also supposed to write them down, was
I mean,
because my
ideally,
handwriting, I got
But
to
it's
roll my
okay.
paper.
so that's why in your handout, I just left a lot of space there. So if you guys just kind of, sorry, I say you guys a lot. If you all would like to just write down, y'all, if y'all would just like to write down in this area right here some ideas you have, then we can all kind of come together. Other examples of strengths might be any partnerships that Scotland County has with state legislators or private companies. I'm not quite sure as far as Scotland County goes, but just leveraging any connections Scotland County has to potentially make you all better aligned with grant funding or any like direct budget.
Garland Pierce.
House representative.
Green crayons.
Yeah, maybe
Oh,
some in there.
perfect.
Donnie's got a coloring book in there.
What about broadband in Scotland County? Would you all say that broadband is a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat as far as access, the number of providers?
In my area,
Weakness.
there is none.
Wait a minute,
They're starting to be.
I've seen like gazillions Spectrum trucks running it all over the county.
Oh, gosh.
Now, they may not be making it to y'all
Come to
yet.
my way and see.
So maybe that would be an opportunity. So how we'll think of the threats, every threat needs to have an associated opportunity with it. So a threat would be lack of broadband, and an opportunity would be the development of broadband in different areas or grants potentially to fund that. I will just go ahead and mention, because now it's public knowledge, the Lumber River Council of Governments. Well, I developed a grant with the Lumber River Council of Governments that was selected by the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. So some senior centers in Scotland County will be getting devices and hotspots, which would be
Congratulations.
really great. So we're super happy.
Who
and
will
it's-
be getting that?
Well, all 5 counties, but specifically here in Scotland County, senior centers and nutrition sites.
Okay,
Yes, sir. So we're super happy. So that's another opportunity, is leveraging partnerships with the Council of Governments as well.
we've got 2 people in my house over 70. Do we qualify as a senior center?
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
How about infrastructure like water? I know water's an issue in Scotland County,
Water and sewer, yes.
water and sewer.
So just that it's outdated, that it's,
It's not covering.
It's
the
not
whole
covered the
county.
whole county.
oh, really?
No.
Oh.
Density issues.
So that would actually also translate into a goal or action
Right.
step, because if you all have any demand in the future, let's say there's a large industry that wants to come here to Scotland County, you need to be able to meet that demand as far as infrastructure goes.
That's a threat. And I can see that as a threat, but like you said, the threat, you have to have a corresponding opportunity. And not that it's on a larger scale, but the county is in preparation to provide water to the north, to the Turnpike area. So, I guess if funds come available, or however we can get those funds, you can utilize those opportunities to provide more water to the county. And so they are trying to do something to provide water to areas that don't have water and access to it.
Okay. And that's just like Scotland County Public Works, or who's leading that?
The water districts have $4
Water.
million. They're using about 2.7 million
Yeah.
to expand the water system.
Now, to your knowledge, does Scotland County have a capital improvements plan? I'm sure they do, but I don't know. No?
It's kind of ad hoc.
Okay, so that would be something else that may be a great opportunity, is development of the capital improvements plan. Capital improvements plans can be heavily utilized when aligning yourselves with grant funding applications. And they're also just really good so that the county knows what needs to be prioritized project-wise and what needs to be delegated as far as funding goes.
Can you write a grant for the water system to get additional funds?
If there
Are
is
you allowed to
funding
do that?
available.
I'm sorry?
If there's funding available, you can reach out to the COG and ask, and I'm sure David would send it to one of us. But I'd be happy to help.
Wow.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Would NAFTA be considered a threat?
NAFTA.
The North
North American
American
Free
Free
Trade
Trade Agreement, and that may have contributed to
The demise.
of Laurinburg being left, I don't want to say left in the past, but
Oh, I see.
factories being
Factories
closed
being
down
closed.
and left dilapidated.
So we were actually talking about that in Red Springs, because come to find out, they had a huge linen factory that was like one of the largest employers. And then we were talking about, I think it's Sophie and Maxton and the Converse plant. And that's definitely something we could list as, I would say, a weakness, because it's in the past now. It's kind of hard to say that's a threat, because threats are right now, like impending doom that Scotland County is facing. But definitely something that's a weakness is just the impact over time that NAFTA has had on industry here in Scotland County. That's definitely something we can reference.
The Bacon Habit plant, for instance.
Now, as far as that vacant plant goes, that could also be an opportunity, because one idea that I was speaking with Red Springs about was the potential to put vacant properties, commercial properties on the website and just put the acreage, the space of the property, and maybe some photos, and possibly turn that into like a marketing component where those could be marketed towards other industry
That's,
leaders.
That's probably in the city
that's in the city,
jurisdiction.
and the
Oh.
county wouldn't own that facility.
Okay,
JD's
gotcha.
out there.
I'm gonna grab my laptop because I'm not ready to pass.
Mark Ward's probably
Well, it's-
marketing it anyway.
Mr.
You all right?
Kitty,
What's wrong?
Nothing. Excuse me for interrupting. One question, please. The zoning that, I have requested for duplex, will that allow me to put, looking at it from density purposes, in case I wanted to put more than 3 units there, if I wanted to go small, like a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, a combination, can I do that as long as I stay the 30 feet, the 30, the 10, and the 10?
Brooke can answer that question quicker than anybody.
Yeah, that's what I was looking.
Yes,
Will it
it
allow
doesn't,
me?
if it's a duplex side by side or on top, it doesn't matter the room. As
It
long as
doesn't
you can
make
meet those setbacks. So if you
Okay.
can put a 10-bedroom in it big enough that it doesn't have to expand into the setbacks, then
I can put as many units
Bedroom.
according to what the setbacks are, as long as I'm in requirement.
That's right.
with the
Are you-
setbacks.
your engineer that came said he thought about going on top,
Uh-huh,
like if he didn't have the room to build long way.
uh-huh.
You
So
can do
we
that
can put multiple units as long as we stay within the guideline,
within the setbacks.
within the setback.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all. I just wanted to make sure and get it clear.
Are you asking if you could put more than one duplex?
Yeah,
He's asking if you put more than one duplex on the property. So if he has one duplex and then want to put
That
another
property's not
duplex.
very
There's
large,
not
though.
that-
no,
There's
and
not
that's,
the room for
as
that.
long as I have to stay
Daniel,
within
they were thinking about
the
like the
guidelines of the
instead of a
setback.
duplex being like long, he wanted to do on
Stack.
top, like upstairs, but we had came to a firewall issue
Mhm.
about the separation if you go on top.
Right,
So
right.
he
Well,
can go
we-
as far as he wants to on top,
Right.
but he just, that's not a big lot. So he wouldn't be able to put but one structure, one roof.
Right. I have to stay within the setbacks, difference as far as the units.
That is correct.
That's all I wanted to get clear. Thank you, and sorry about
We'll see you.
I promise I won't be back.
You're all right.
What about the old Springs buildings? I don't even know if those are being used or not.
What we just said.
I think Mark Ward probably,
He's already got
he
those.
has a prospect, makes them aware that these, you know, under the EDC umbrella are available. I doubt anybody wants the whole building up because they don't need,
Okay.
do what?
Most of the buildings have been demoed, except that part down there at the very east, I believe. I think maybe all of them been demoed. I mean, a lot of the rubbish has been left.
The ones over near the airbase, they've been demoed?
You said, that, you talking about East Lawrenceburg now,
Yeah.
county here? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on another property.
Springs out, the
Oh.
2 big Springs plants
The
out near the
Cascades
airbase.
plants.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So those are vacant plants?
Well, no,
Cascades is in there, aren't
Cascades is
Cascades.
the larger one. The other one is owned by, I've heard some chitter chatter about it. I know there's an asbestos issue, but it's owned by them or someone else, and there's always hear little things in the air about potentially something coming there, but there's gonna have to have some work done, but it's not owned by the county.
All right, so that's not
They wouldn't
anything
really
we
have
can
any
put
control of the
in here for
market or
this.
do.
The bigger potential is the water out there.
Yeah, the water plant. Didn't it get purchased?
I don't think so.
So, I'm sorry, there's a water plant?
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
sewer, isn't it? Both? If I'm not
I don't know
mistaken.
about sewer, but, we were approached by Pinehurst probably 10 or 15 years, maybe even 20 years ago, because J.D. Willis was the chairman. They wanted to buy water from us from that water plant.
I got a few calls on that too.
Because we have a resource that they don't have. More counties running out of water.
Don't suck my river dry.
You're above it.
And then I think, I mean, I guess it could be a threat or weakness. The decision of SAPACO not to come to Scotland County. And, you know, their people may say one thing, and then whoever's in contact by representing the county or whoever, they may say one thing. And the reason I say that is because lack of transparency. You know, you want
What
to
the
tell,
real reason was, don't you?
right, you want to tell the community what the actual real reason was this company decided not to come, which was going to create so many jobs and bring so much money into the county. You want to make sure that you're letting your constituents know, hey, what's the real reason? You know, if the company said one thing, then your representative saying one thing, and it's two different things. So like they always say, there's your side to the story, their side to the story, and the truth. Tell the people the truth. And in developing this type of SWOT analysis, that goes to, I have put down a threat of lack of positive forward-thinking leadership. And the opportunity was to correspond with that would be leadership development. Always having your leaders to have professional development and to make sure that they are understanding that they are leading from a perspective of representing the people and representing the vision and mission of said county. How do we implement that? That's one of the hardest questions to answer because every leader would think they're leading in the right direction. But you have leaders that have never taken professional developments or don't continue to improve upon themselves. So how can you begin to be forward thinking when you don't continually invest in yourself? And so with that, you know, that could be a threat and opportunity where we encourage our leaders to be transparent and to continue to invest in themselves to make sure they're leading us in a progressive forward way.
That's a great point. And the School of Government offers wonderful trainings for county commissioners, for planning board, for every board, really, Board of Adjustments. There's lots of great trainings that can be accessed. So that's definitely something we can reference as an opportunity and a threat. And when we're thinking about turning these into goals and action steps, because all of these ideas that we're listing ideally will be turned into a goal and an action step. So you kind of already mentioned the goal, just training, making sure that county leadership is equipped with the knowledge they need to make good decisions for the county. That the action steps beyond that would be like connecting with the School of Government to figure out what trainings may be available, encouraging county commissioners to get training, encouraging planning board to get training as well. So that's something we can list specifically.
Is that company still operating in South Carolina, Daniel?
Yes, as far as I know, yes, sir.
My guess is that South Carolina re-incentivized them
I
a
think so.
lot, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Lonnie Thompson, the president of the company, is from Laurinburg.
Mhm.
I played poker with him years ago.
All right.
I've known he and his wife for years. And Lonnie's pretty straight up forward, but I don't know. That was close enough to my house out there. I was looking to sell the new plant manager of my house. So, as far as logistics for getting other people involved in exactly what we're doing tonight, I really kind of wish that the county commissioners were here as well. And, you know, we need to do our part here, but when can we get other people? Because if you look at other land use plan development, they take in Chamber of Commerce, tourism development boards, county commissioners, local members. Is what we're doing here just getting a groundwork laid out and then we're gonna say whoosh, get us all
Yes.
together?
Yes, so
Okay,
I did speak with David regarding a potential like training or workshop. I do not have the experience to facilitate that workshop. I would definitely need David's assistance with that. Jean, you all met Jean. She would be the one to do the workshops, and since she's left, I've not gotten any training on workshops whatsoever.
okay.
So I would definitely want to engage David on that. He did reach out to me about another municipality who's interested in a workshop. And it's something that the COG definitely has on its horizons to be able to offer. We just got a new staff person in the planning department. So that means there's some weight lifted off of certain people. So it's really just comes down to what we can get in this document, how well we can develop this document, and then in what ways we can engage county commissioners and also the Chamber of Commerce as well. Does anyone here sit or work with the Chamber of Commerce at all? No? Okay. So I can reach out to the Chamber of Commerce and see if they have any thoughts on the economic development side of everything. But just thinking about opportunities and threats, I did want to ask about any flooding concerns here in Scotland County. Any specific areas that are more prone to flooding that in the past have presented a concern?
I think a lot of that showed its face pretty well about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of those issues have been corrected, but there are some areas where 100-year floods are still going to get into basements and crawl spaces and
Now, that storm was probably far exceeding a 100-year storm event, which
Yeah.
most things are designed for. That was well above it, I'm sure, from what I understand.
But the drainage issues you said have been addressed already? Like the drainage of the water?
I don't know if there's been any changes as far as infrastructure like that. I don't know that even upgrades to the infrastructure could have accepted that much water.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like I said, it's exceeded,
It-
probably
okay.
exceeded what most things are designed to handle.
It might have been a 500 or 1,000-year event, I don't know.
It's probably more like a 500, yeah.
Okay, and that's something I can speak with public works or utilities.
Well, Public
about.
Works, I think all counties, well, municipalities and counties, don't they have money allocated every year to maintain and keep those storm drains clear?
They do for the most. Sometimes they get special money though to like actually upgrade or do like a whole system, so something to the
And
whole
they've
system.
been continuously working. I mean, if you're riding around and see them working, but replacing drainages or doing
Cool,
something to the drainages. Because I know on the north side of town, you see them, some of those areas that had some drainage problems, they was over there changing some things out. So if you pay attention and see, because I ain't nosy, I just
Well, having-
inquisitive.
Well,
You
having
see-
other departments here would help inform us of some of these
Right.
things.
But then that's where I ain't gonna call it a workshop. I would call it a gathering of the mind or something. If you would have the planning and zoning board, the county commissioners, a representative or two from the city council, representative or two from Wagram City Council, from Gibson. If you have all these people come, once we develop this, and then they can see, because then now they know what's going on in their area and they're part of the county as a whole. Have somebody from the Public Works Department, and you have all these people here that can answer these questions, and then it'll help develop that plan. And then if we need to, like you said, assign the goals, okay, we'll assign the goals to the department, and then they just put that on their repertoire, and then something added that they will say, hey, we'll keep up with this goal and we'll make sure that it's taken care of. And then, hey, we'll come back to the planning and zoning board and say, hey, this is what's going on with this goal. We're here with this goal. And, you give data and measurements, and then we'll know how effective the land use it will be.
I think that's a great idea, and that's definitely something we can be sure to include as an opportunity.
You ought to run
Just
for
bring
county
in
council,
people.
shoot.
And I did want to ask, specific to land use, are there any areas around the county that would be a great fit for future housing developments? Are there any public-private partnerships with housing developers that the county may be able to leverage to obtain some additional housing, whether that's?
I think they're in the process of doing that now with the, with that, land behind IEJ. They get ready to do those apartments right there. I forgot the,
That's
agency.
for the city though.
That's what the city,
It's city, it's in city jurisdiction, so. I don't-
Yeah.
but it's part of the county though.
Well, I mean, that's true.
I mean, it's part of the county.
I was
But they-
thinking
but
the
they-
rural area.
Yeah, it's part of the county, but they're, I mean, she asked where, but they're partnering with, I forgot the agency, that they're getting ready to build those, affordable housing apartments behind the IEJ Community Center. So,
Yeah, I don't know how far along they are.
Not very far.
I was gonna say, I don't think very far.
I know there's a 50-acre plot near my house that's owned by one of the local realtors, one of his LLCs. And it's definitely a great area. It used to have a main mobile home park on it. But it's nice high land. It's be easy to develop that.
But developers are gonna be looking for utilities,
Yeah,
water or sewer.
Yeah.
Because if they put in, there's some, I don't even know what the regulations are, but that's some of the main things about looking for water and sewer infrastructure, to be able to put that in there, because if they already have like water, and it could affect the cost of the development depending on whether they have sewer or water or not.
if they gotta put a well, septic tank,
And if you put a multi-family housing or something, and you have a well, we have some apartments, but we've had them since late 90, early 2000. One reason we went ahead and go with them is because the water was coming by there, and we got onto it. If not, if I remember correctly, and I don't know the regulations, we would, if we'd had a well, we'd have had to pay money to have it tested so often, like several times a year, and it's just so many other variables, and it was no brainer to hook in, so.
Right.
Now, if y'all run sewer by there, I'd be greatly appreciative.
So definitely infrastructure being a primary threat to the growth of the county, because if we can't meet that demand, it's just not gonna happen.
I got a question. You
Yes.
said growth. Is there like any data on, I guess, percentage wise, year over year, how much the population may or may not be growing by?
About 86 people in the last 3 years.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's, the population projections pretty much throughout the whole region are not on the up and up, I will say, and that's that's the same throughout most rural
it's
areas.
declining.
It's declining in
declining.
most of the municipalities I'm working with, except for like Parkton, which, they're right there by Hope County or Cumberland County. It's declining. So that's kind of an issue that we're seeing across the board, is people are just dispersing to areas like Raleigh and Pinehurst.
Is that due to lack of opportunity when it comes to jobs and not being able to retain talent?
Yes, so definitely lack of employment opportunities is a very big issue. Lack of housing is a very big issue, because when we're talking about attracting new people into the county, we're gonna wanna have nice housing options for them. And a lot of that may look like partnering with the cities here, and working with them to develop some great housing options for people, for newcomers essentially, because people are gonna be looking for housing. So
I'll probably-
doing a housing inventory is something that is a part of the comprehensive plan, just to kind of better understand the general age of the housing and like the quality of the housing, generally speaking. So I would say most of the houses are pretty much older houses. So
That's where someone on the plan I'd like to look at, because what I see in the future is all these places where Fort Bragg's been expanding, they're booming to the north end in Hope County and all, just hugely. Well, how much have we seen? I think part of it's utilities, but one thing that we've got that they don't have, which I see in my line of work, is the ones I end up doing work for are so tickled because we have rural property. And we actually have some tracts of land still left that are more than a few acres, to where they can go hunting, shoot their firearms, whatever, and they just think it's cheap and they're just love it to death. And it shocks me at the amount of people who, that I've known.
in retirement. And the projection at that time was would be static for about 10 or 15 years and then gradually start to go up. Well, now we've seen that number change. But if you want to do some comparison, I could probably get you the old and the new. And I imagine Brooks probably got them. Well, you're still having computer issues, aren't you?
You know, we haven't gotten our computers restored yet.
Okay. I may have some of that stuff and I can get you some copies.
And I wanted to ask, because I know we spoke about this a little in our last meeting, the tax rate in Scotland County. I don't know if there's any way to address that, but I know that that's
No.
something that, and it's so, it's so hard to understand how years ago this was.
When you get a third of the county that's non-taxable,
Yes.
you have wildlife and military land.
Oh,
and
with the
rural
game
land.
land.
That's no taxes. So what do? You
So
tax
it-
everybody else a third more.
So it's not just the school floor tax that causes it, it's also.
That's a huge impact.
Yeah.
But there's other variables. Land's being sold and turned into game lands, national service owned, but, you know, but there's also, we just don't have the population. That's why I believe our tax rate's higher, because we just don't have the population there, like Moore County, Hope County. When you got that many people buying homes and stuff, that could put so much money in there, that it might be able to lower it.
Well, in industry.
Yeah, in the industry.
Yeah, we have lost the industry.
Is there anything land use wise that you all feel like might help Scotland County be more competitive when it comes to attracting industry? As far as like incentives or being flexible and with zoning or anything like that, that you have maybe ideas or thoughts on?
We already do incentives.
Okay, what's incentives specifically?
We have in essence, it's a tax rebate. I don't call it that.
Okay,
There's a formula they use depending on how much the company's investing that's taxable and the number of jobs they create and the salary level. And, you know, it's scaled to those things. And it basically starts out at a higher level and then gradually decreases. So
okay.
they're tax rebates.
Ed, is it competitive with everybody else?
You know, I don't know if it's competitive with South Carolina. That's probably the SPACO issue would be my guess, but, you know, I would say they're generous, but you know, when you do that, you shift that tax burden to the residential.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, so it's a two-edged sword.
We're in a major growing pain, I think. And we're so unique.
And if you look at the numbers from, it was really unusual, a representative from Cypress Creek actually sent me a whole lot of information several months back. And some of the information showed the increase in tax revenue by percentage and by dollars in counties throughout North Carolina without solar and with solar. And there are counties that increase their taxes on those lands by 1,100%. But you look at Scotland County, the average income for the county over the last 20 years with increases maybe $170,000 a year. And you figure that we've got 3 times the acreage in solar that we had than 20 years ago or 15 years ago. It's negligible. The county virtually gets no extra money for solar. And these folks come in with these 1,000-acre solar farms, and they're really not doing the county any good at all.
Mm.
They're benefiting the individual landowners. I'm all for solar, but I think the county commissioners have to understand it's not helping the county at all.
It's
It's a
a,
wash.
there's a place for it, but it ain't on your most valuable resource, which is your
Exactly.
agricultural land.
Mm.
You know, top of a building, road medians,
We
maybe
just
some other
proved-
places.
We
so
just
big.
approved 1,500 acres going on what is currently classified as prime agricultural, prime natural resource, prime timberland.
And Gene is a contributor to that. 1,500.
That's one reason we rewritten the solar ordinances, And one reason, when we get this land use plan, it will have the verbiage in there, protect the rural heritage of the county.
Yes.
And that gives a big tool to the county commissioners to say, we need to take another look at that.
Definitely agree. And if you all go to the last page, or page number 4, which are the goals, you'll actually see, hold on, let me find it in here. Number 8, encourage the development of agritourism to support rural land preservation and economic development. So I don't know if agritourism has been something that you all have been presented with in the past, any farmers looking to come here for specific reasons or anything like that, but.
Yeah, the chicken farmers did. But I believe they're about to run out of land to put them on there to meet requirements.
I guess agritourism, that's kind of like the corn mazes and
Yeah, things like
like
that,
MacArthur Farms down in
I-
Bennettsville.
I would say
Got
like
it on Fireworks.
smaller scale farming for the purpose of like events or having produce to sell, things like that. or
Well, how about a winery?
A winery,
Yeah.
things like that. Mhm.
And we got a great
I
winery.
know one of those for
You do
sale.
have a winery here?
Oh,
Yes.
oh, really?
Oh,
Oh, it's been for sale.
it's for sale?
Yeah.
So that could be an opportunity.
And they have events,
What was the name of the winery?
Cypress Bend Winery. Waverly.
Why are they trying to sell it, if you don't mind me asking?
Well,
He's
he's
Danny Aiken.
getting up some age
Getting up
too.
some
age.
Yeah.
His health, he's
Very
what,
good.
early 80s,
Yeah.
and had some health issues.
So that's a good example of agritourism, bringing people here for the express purpose of planting something or growing something.
We got the new one right there north of the circle.
Yeah.
On the left, he does grapes and stuff, and they're building a, like, I guess it's gonna be like a produce stand or something.
Oh, fantastic.
Where's
What's that
this?
one called?
Go
Uh,
on
Highway.
501, you know where the circle is, right?
Yeah.
Go north, half a mile left,
That's it.
you'll see it. Drive by there, you'll see it.
Who is that?
He's a
He's
gentleman.
retired military.
He's retired military. He's a veteran. He got blew up in a, I stopped talking to him one day. A heck of a nice guy. Got blew up in a Humvee or something, and his wife's a nurse, and he purchased that property. And somewhere along the way, I think he worked in the grapes or helped someone, and he started his own show there. And
Wow.
looks like he's doing well. But I'm looking forward to it, except he's gonna take all my money because if he sells ice cream, my youngins are gonna be like,
That sounds
so I
really
get to know
nice.
real well.
I'll
I'll probably pay
definitely
for
stop
film
by.
for it.
So that's one of the goals that I was sure to include in just, this is kind of an outline that we can use to reference. But I knew that was important to you all as far as land preservation. I will definitely specifically reference the solar part in the SWOT as a threat. Because I think that's something that is an impending doom issue. Like if we don't draw back or be a little more strategic in where we're placing these solar fields, that could be a potential issue for us. And the upside to the new zoning ordinance, sorry, I can't think right now. The upside to the new zoning ordinance is that legal recourse for the county when it comes time for those solar panel companies to actually leave. They will have to take all of that infrastructure with them. So that's a positive to that, but still a negative is we don't want to just take all of our land. So that's something we will reference in here specifically.
Well, the ordinance they got adopted gives this board and the commissioners better controls over whether they get approval in the first place, so.
Yeah, that and for telecommunications as well. So like big cell towers, you all have a lot more control and there's a lot more legal recourse. So if those companies decide to do anything fishy or just leave all of that infrastructure there, now you all could, sue them and say, no, you have to take all your stuff because this is what it says in our ordinance.
The energy that's produced, is it benefiting Laurinburg, or where is this energy going?
It's going to either, it'll go to a major energy company like Duke or Progress Energy.
So it's not.
It's not Lumber River Electric
lowering
membership.
Utilities for citizens.
No, and that was something that was mentioned before, was if we couldn't get these solar producers to subsidize the electricity in the areas. And I don't know if that is something, I know we didn't address it here in this board, but I don't know that the county commissioners have discussed it, have they?
I doubt it.
But the most recent one, if you go to the traffic circle about 3 miles out of town on Aberdeen Highway, from the traffic circle for 1.5 miles on the right side past David Breeden's store will be solar.
And that's a major thoroughfare coming into our county.
Hmm.
And one of the first things that anybody's gonna see. And I remember in high school, my buddy's farms, the land right there, the first fields you come to in Scotland County,
But
he had cotton. And I remember being out in the tractor, and you would not believe the people who would pull over, what is this? And you tell them, and they were like pulling plants, I mean, filling their trunks up, and I was like, this is somebody's living here.
Oh, gosh.
I think that was such a great benefit, and now you're gonna have to see all that. But who does it benefit? The landowner and the solar company. Yes, I guess the equipment's taxable, but according to Jim and what research has seen, it must not be enough to make a worthwhile for the county even put up with. But I don't say that they're not needed; they just have their own place. And I just don't think our most natural resource, which is the agricultural land,
I agree.
and who would much rather see fields versus structures? Yeah, they're gonna plant a buffer, but you ride around many of them, you still see them. And the buffers, I mean, look at the one on right there across from the hillside. I mean, it's a joke, But
the city has not been as thorough with keeping the solar companies they deal with in line for the communities like the county has.
So that could potentially be an opportunity to engage the city to make sure that there is some more accountability with making sure these solar companies are doing all the things that they agreed to do or following policy. Would anyone like to take a snack or a drink break? Because there's a lot left and I can't take this home, so.
I think,
yeah, you can't wait to see more of you when you come back.
Oh, gosh.
I think
Exactly.
something that would be an opportunity is, I know Scotland County, has been designated and known for, being a retirement community. But I do believe in, and this goes back with the, I'm gonna say a three. Somewhat of educational level or acumen. You can say we have a poorly educated workforce and lack ethic and morale. So then that's the opportunity is to develop the workforce by offering trainings. But at the same time, like I said, Scotland County and the area has been known as has been designated as a retirement community. But what I think would be a driving force if the county or if it would be able to be implemented to make it an e-community, which is an entrepreneurship community to help individuals that have ideas or that want to start their own business. If we had an incubator that these individuals can go to learn how to start their own businesses, to take these classes, because some people, they have the ideas, but they don't know how to get the idea from the thought on paper to get it into action. If we had an incubator and we can designate Scotland County as an e-community and all these individuals that have ideas and want to become entrepreneurs to create small businesses, I think that would be such an awesome idea because not only is it put individuals, they're holding themselves accountable and you can hold them accountable because now you are actually starting a business. And so you have to have the morale, the work ethic to see it through. And then you have the potential to be able to create jobs as well. And then it would be beneficial to the county and community because now they're paying taxes or they're getting buildings and things of that nature. So then now you take an impoverished mentality and mindset, and then develop and get it out of that mindset. And if I'm not mistaken, going towards the mountains, I'm not for sure if it's on the other side of Charlotte. They have an e-community, and they have done so many. They've taken individuals that was in poverty, they just didn't have the drive, and they had ideas that, hey, I want to work for myself. I want to have my own business, and they created a system to help these individuals. And these individuals are now small business owners and thriving in that community. And that would be such an asset to the county and to the whole as a whole.
If you could tap into the retirees at Scotia Village to
Right.
help teach, there's some
Right.
unbelievable people out there.
Oh, they minds are sharp.
On what they've done in their life.
Their minds are sharp.
Yeah.
I'm
The
talking about their minds are
RCC
sharp.
used to have one of those.
That's what I thought. I thought they had a big push years ago.
Yeah, because when I started my business 26 years ago, I took classes there. And it was the REAL program, REAL, I can't remember what it stood for.
Right.
But I know RCC used to have that kind of program.
So that's why we got to tap into, if they don't have it, making sure that, hey, let's reinstate this. And if they do have it, let's make sure we promote and market this, because like some people don't want to work for nobody. They would do better working for themselves. You know, that's just some individuals. But if they don't have the tools in their toolbox to be successful, you know, even though they want to do it, you know, because I wanted to be a business owner. But you know, you have ideas, but if you don't have the capital, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the network and connections, it's hard. But if I can go somewhere and they can put the incubator, and we got to understand what an incubator is. When you put a child in the incubator, you help that child grow, you nurture that child till that child's able to come from that incubator and survive on their own.
Mhm.
That's what that incubator would do for a small business owner. Nurture that individual, teach and train that individual, provide resources, however we may provide them, until that individual is able to stand up on their own. And I just think that's one thing as a community we have to do better. We can be united on some fronts, but then we're divided on other fronts. And I think if we just are truly going to be our brother's keeper, we have to make it known. It has to be a culture that is developed and implemented for it to be successful.
I love all of that. Now, how would you say, when we're talking about implementing that culture and bringing that to life and making that the reality for Scotland County, what groups do you think would be primarily responsible for seeing that through? Would that be the Chamber of Commerce? Would that like a partnership between the Chamber and Richmond Community, Scotland Community, I wrote Richmond because I went to Richmond, I'm sorry. And Scotland Community College, or what's your community college?
Richmond.
Oh, Richmond Community
Yeah,
College,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, I went there. I was like, wait, I only went there though. So a partnership with Richmond Community College, or what do you think the assets would be to make that happen? Are there any groups or organizations that are responsible for like
I think,
entrepreneurship
I think-
already?
no, I know.
Okay.
But I think, you know, you can, your chamber,
Mhm.
Richmond Community College, and then your school system. I think all parties involved, in order for it to develop into a culture,
Mhm.
you know, in order for it to develop into, this is how we operate, you know, everybody that's going to be a part of, or that is a part of, you know, from leadership down, from your elected officials to your school officials, everybody that's going to be involved, then now you say, hey, this is going to be a part of what we're doing. Let's implement it on every level. In order for it to become a part of culture, it may be hard, but in order for it to develop into culture, it has to be implemented on all aspects and from every organization that may have a potential impact in that situation.
Okay, and then also thinking about entrepreneurship, my husband is a business owner in Robeson County, and he has a car dealership there. And when we were going through the zoning process for him to build his car dealership, it was the struggle because there were so many different obstacles that we had to go through. There was lots of miscommunication, and a lot of times the information that we needed to actually make sure our building was in line with the zoning ordinance and make sure we were good to go as far as the building inspection went, it was all discombobulated. How would you say here in Scotland County the process is for entrepreneurs to actually build their business and start their business and go through the inspection process and the zoning process and opening? Because there were so many obstacles for us that we had to go through that made it a lot more challenging.
It's like everywhere else, it depends on who you are and who you know. I know one business owner
Wow, you
that
said
his building downtown was delayed for 6 to 9 months for one plumbing issue.
Oh, wow.
And the nicest person you'd ever meet.
Yes, he is.
I think he said 69.
So
You say 69.
this is something that the planning board could address or could put a charge to another party to address. Because when we're talking about creating better processes and making things more efficient for entrepreneurs who are wanting to start a business, what are some ideas you all have to just make sure that it's equitable, that everyone gets the same timeline and the same treatment and the same information? Because when we were starting, I did notice that. Because they didn't know that I was married, that I was my husband's wife, and that I had written grants for Robeson County before. But then when they found that out, I did see
Got treated differently.
the
didn't you?
tune kind of changed and things
Yeah.
were a little, and that isn't right. That isn't right. So how can we, as the planning board, make sure that that information is distributed?
I don't know that we as a planning board can.
Okay.
I'm not sure that that's,
So as far as like zoning goes, how would that process look?
well, that goes right back to Brooke, and Brooke has made things about as equitable as they've
Yes,
been
okay.
in years.
Well, you just saw 2 applications tonight. They were
Right, and they went
pretty,
through.
pretty.
So wasn't an incubator being built somewhere though? I remember
We
seeing.
did have an incubator.
It could use, it could be a partnership with the RCC
Up there near
building or
FCC.
Yeah, I thought there was something being built.
Yeah, they had one up there at one time.
But it's
Are they
not
still
being-
using
it's not
that as
being
an
marketed or?
But, to get realistic, that and these programs cost money. Ed, the county commissioners come up with an approved budget. Did they get their money issue straightened out yet?
Still working on it. They have a meeting
They're
the
still working on
25th.
Yeah, I've
So
seen something that there's a $4.3 million deficit.
the last time I heard 2 weeks ago. I don't know what's happened since then. So, that's the bad thing about it is the financial circumstances in the county are prohibitive about hard product.
Hmm.
The services would probably be a lot easier to work with than a hard product.
Cash flow.
And that's gonna take volunteers, and I think a lot of this county's volunteered out, to be honest with you.
And there's not a grant writer, right? There's
No,
not a
we're
deadline.
trying to figure it out right now.
Great idea what he's talking about, and I think they've done some of
Yeah.
that. I think it's such a small percentage. That'd be a tough one to, I mean, I like it. I would love to have it when I moved here. When I moved here to start with. The Lord, it was a challenge. I just, Farnborough is so, Scotland County is so unique. Geographically, we're kind of in a great place. But we have so many challenges because of some of our structure that it's, Ed, you've been here a long time. Has there ever been like an assessment done by some kind of, company who could come in and look at all your assets and all your positive, negatives, and give you suggestions of how you could better your community or your county or?
That's what.
That's
Long River
kind of what the
did for 10
purpose
years.
of
So
the
we're doing
plan
it.
is,
Well,
yeah.
I'm just asking, has the one been done before? I'd just be curious to see.
I don't have it documented. Let me look to see if I can
I
find
don't
it.
think so.
Because it's real easy for us to pick out the thing that bothers us most or we like the most, but then there's so much more to it. But then, our perspective is going to be individual based on what we're,
our experiences.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, let me see, like a threat. And this just, how, like, I know when they started building the, Morgan complex, they had a master plan. And I think sometimes
You're gonna get
we're good at starting things, and for whatever reason, we don't finish, or we don't see it all the way through. Like the Morgan complex, if you looked at that master plan and everything that was supposed to be out there, but the only thing out there is the soccer fields and the baseball, softball field.
And who is responsible for that? Just
But that's Parks and Rec and the county.
County Department.
Yeah, the county department, but it was supposed to be, they had a master plan, it was supposed to be so much more out there that's out there. I don't know if it was because they didn't have the funding or what, but I just do believe,
Did you see what they spent on the playground?
yeah. I was on
You know what they
the,
saved?
I was on the advisory
But
board,
what they spent was amazing.
yeah, but I'm saying, and what happens is,
I just had a quick.
we gotta be able to, if we're gonna implement something, we gotta be able to see it through. I mean, don't wait, okay, that complex may be 25 or plus years old, but since they did the soccer fields and the baseball, softball field, there's nothing else been done. And it's just like, okay, we started it, but we're not gonna finish what we started.
Well,
The master plan probably old.
Yeah, I can see two things that slowed that down. One, the other communities also wanted some type of extra parks and recs in their communities. So the county had to look at that and say, okay, well, we'll rob Peter to pay Paul and put some other facilities in Laurel Hill and Wagram and things like that. Plus you had some financial malfeasance where we had a $650,000 grant that never got, the application never got sent in. The county had to pay that money. The paperwork was never sent in to get reimbursed for that money.
Oh my gosh.
And it cost somebody a job.
And I think that's why we should have a grant writer on staff, because if you had a full-time grant writer, you gotta understand, grants funds a lot of things in communities.
It does.
I'm talking about a lot of things. And for us not to have a grant writer, and I think that's an opportunity we can put on this paper and say, hey, go to the Board of Commissioners, listen, we need a grant writer. Because you understand, this is their job to find grants. This is their full-time job to write grants, find grants, and make sure money is flowing.
Doesn't the city have a part-time grant writer?
They do. The city has grant writers. I've worked with them before. But Robeson County has their own grant writer as well.
I see they, like she said, partnerships. If the county can get together with the city and say, hey, y'all got this grant writer part-time, let's hire this same grant writer part-time for the county. And then, because now, you're not having to depend, or you're not having to put that on someone else's plate, and that's not their job. Let them do their job, and you get a grant writer. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm hired to do, to go out and find money for this county.
So in this case, the opportunity would be to share resources.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity. And then just to give some perspective on that, even working at the COG, Robeson County wanted to submit a FEMA it's a BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructures and Communities, which is a FEMA program. And I ended up writing it for the COG, me and a colleague, and it actually got selected by FEMA. So Robeson County is getting $1.2 million to buy generators for the Maxon water treatment plant. And I can't think of the other water treatment plant right now. I'm sorry.
Right.
For 2 water treatment plants, and the generators will essentially keep the power going even when there's a hurricane, so people will still get clean water.
Wow.
Maxon and Lumber Bridge. So those are ways that you can utilize the COG as an asset, and also utilize, if you get your own grant writer, utilize them as an asset, because there's a lot of money to be had out there. I mean, even with $800,000 for all 5 counties we're getting, that's devices and hotspots right there. So having a dedicated person is really worth it. So I think that that's something that Scotland County could benefit from, and something we can specifically reference in here as an opportunity, is hiring a grant writer. Dedicated stuff. So any other, we are kind of slim on weaknesses, which is interesting.
I
They're
got,
either threats or opportunities.
I got some weaknesses.
Okay,
It's more fun to look at opportunities.
It is.
Population decline.
okay, yeah.
I don't know who's gonna have a whole lot of babies, but we just gotta bring some people to move in here.
Fact, 'cause I haven't had one yet.
Yeah, I know.
I say crime and safety.
Yes, that's a big one. That was one of the most referenced threats from the survey. Everyone was like, the crime rate is.
Do you think crime and safety has something to do with the lack of education? This past semester, I've had the opportunity to teach at Shaw, which is an alternative learning academy. And something that I've learned is the kids there have an inability to not be able to read or comprehend. So a lot of times they're acting out, not necessarily because they don't want to contribute to the learning environment, but not trying to be disrespectful. They might be just dumb as rocks, you know, and like they really just can't read at all. So they start just doing dumb things. So is there a way that we could, I guess, like,
Certainly related.
There was a
Assist
literary council,
the
I guess it's
education
still in existence.
There's a litter, oh, that's nice.
There was or is or still, I'm not sure.
I
I
know
met
the
the lady
library
like a year or
does a
two
good job
ago
at
on a
events.
project and I guess it still exists. I don't know.
So the weakness would be like a lack of educational attainment. And then the opportunity would be engaging the literary council on maybe expanding
have
their
one.
services.
There's some how active it was. I really don't know.
I hadn't heard anything about that in years.
I know
Well, the
there
house
was-
that burned in here in town was the literary
Yeah.
council because I did some work for it and it was supposed to be demoed. And I met the lady who was, I guess now handling, short lady, but she was trying to get things re-going or something. And I think they were about to get a facility, but I just really don't know any more details. That's been a year or two ago.
I think a weakness may be that we're not catering to the youth in some areas. Yes, this is a retirement community and they probably, you know, help the city and county sustain themselves financially. But ultimately, there is going to be a time and period, unfortunately, where that generation dies out. And I think there needs to be an emphasis towards the youth in some way, somehow. I don't know how that might exist, but that's just something that I'm seeing a disconnect.
I agree, and I think a way that would translate to something the planning board, like an actionable goal for the planning board would be the parks and recreation and zoning for more green spaces. So I don't know if you all have any open areas that aren't being utilized that you think would be fit for parks, or even spaces between buildings that have been demolished before. But that's a new big thing that's coming up in land use is utilizing, reusing spaces that are just empty and vacant and just saying this is a park and you can come play soccer here, you can come kick the ball around, you can throw the softball, things like that to create more designated areas for the youth throughout the
The
community.
county has just gone through and done that
Oh,
in
really?
Waverham and Laurel Hill and Gibson in the last
Okay.
several years. So each one of those communities has a playground area. I don't know how much they use.
I think the basketball courts have assisted, but I'm thinking more along the lines of like some attractions. So like me, for instance, I've been having this conversation with my girlfriend and, you know, she doesn't necessarily want to move to Laurinburg because one, there's again, that lack of opportunity piece. But then it's like, okay, let's say we do wish to establish our family in Laurinburg. Well, there's not necessarily nothing for them to do outside of, we can go to the movies, which is a 2-screen theater, but outside of the movies and bowling alley, like there's nothing to do.
So
to
that's
be
a
honest.
weakness.
Again, it goes back to the dependency on the financing. And if we don't have the population growth, we don't get the tax base. We don't have the tax base, we can't attract new people. And unfortunately, where Scotland County is, the numbers speak for themselves. We're
And
not growing.
And I think what it's going to take is a big industry, and what that's going to
Yeah.
take, it all comes back down to infrastructure. So the lack of sewer and water in certain areas is like an immediate impending doom threat. Because if we can't expand our infrastructure, we're not gonna get any industry, meaning we're not gonna get new jobs, meaning we're not gonna get new people, meaning we're not gonna get businesses who wanna come in and have a movie theater or a bowling alley and things like that. So that's a big thing, and that comes back down to grant opportunities for expanding the infrastructure. I need to look at the most recent capital improvements plan to see what was on there, because that would really help me get a better idea of like if it's been a priority recently, because it should be definitely a priority because that is an important asset and an important capital that we need to, something we need to put capital towards to improve. So I will definitely reference that in there as well.
We could get into a great social commentary discussion.
Yes, sir.
I've got a degree in sociology and a degree in psychology, and this stuff weighs on me daily. I mean, my mind just works towards what can we do to help our parents work with their children better. And, you know, I look at, back when I was in school, if I spoke back to my teacher, I got a whooping when I got home.
Yes, sir.
Today, my granddaughter has no homework. She's Beta Club and National Honor Society. I don't know how she does it.
Yes, sir.
If I did that when I was back in school, I'd be making D's.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
You know, I just don't understand the way schools work these days.
I don't know, there's so much you can blame the schools. I think it boils down to the family life.
It does. It really does.
And everybody seems to ignore it. And I don't know what to do to fix it or how they bring it up, and people get offended. And I'm like,
And the bad thing about it is that's not something that we are charged really to kind of take care of.
so the school's got to deal with it, but then they got to worry about the, you know, the little things. Oh, he put my hand on my child, and you know, I don't.
So
They got a tough job.
how that does kind of translate for a planning board goal, is looking, again, Parks and Recreation is going to be a big one, and available green spaces is a big opportunity. I don't know if those exist. You said that you already did, or the county already did kind of like an inventory of green spaces already, or just open spaces and that.
Yeah, as a
sort
matter
of-
of fact, on your paperwork from last time on the survey,
Mhm.
I think, how many were there?
Well, so we
8
have
or 9
those parks.
Yeah, there's more than I realized.
Yeah,
Okay, so maybe just, we need to figure out the quality of those parks and to see if that's actually something that, because we have the data regarding like visiting, who's going where more, but did they have swing sets, or is there just like what's at the parks? So that could be something for us to look into. I think trying to see here. So this is and this is kind of the difficulty of a comprehensive plan, is that the planning board does it, and planning board is specific to land use and zoning.
right.
But also somebody has to be in charge for thinking about the future of the county or the municipality. So that's kind of why we're here. When we're talking about solid waste, how is solid waste handled in Scotland County? Would you say it's like handled well? Would you say there's a lot of litter?
You know, there's plenty of litter on the side of the road.
Okay, so we
But,
could translate that into a goal and an action step, which would be like, the planning board could host or somehow have
I
an
think-
event for like a community cleanup day, something like that.
Well, you have organizations that adopt a road or adopt a street, and they do literacy cleanup.
I think a lot of churches do it, like they have a Saturday, church groups
Some
get together and
some
clean up
churches
for
do it.
4 hours.
Some fraternities, sorority organizations do it.
Rotary does
The Rotary does it. So they do that, and the county is, I don't know how they're going to implement. Well, they're implementing if they can find out who's doing it.
Mhm.
Like with the garbage that's on the side of the road, or they can't literally, if somebody throw a couch on the side of the road, there's something's in there. But I know that they started implementing because I had to take my trash to the landfill,
Mhm.
and I was driving and a bag flew off, and I didn't know a bag flew off.
Oh,
And so the solid waste enforcement dude got the bag, went through it,
Oh
put
my
my name and
gosh.
address,
wow.
and sent me took a picture of it, clicked it,
Oh,
and
my
sent it into the
goodness.
mail and said, "Hey, this is your ticket. You need to pay this." I was like, I was like, why did I throw trash on the road? So I was like, oh, a bag was blown. So if they can enforce and know who's throwing it out or
Okay.
something's going out, I ain't getting a warning. I ain't getting it. No, you need to pay this right here. I think it was like $75.
That's definitely a strength. Maybe not in your
Yeah,
specific case.
but
I'm so sorry that happened
Yeah, it
to
was
you.
like, I think it was
If you
$75.
makes county commissioner, I know what about that.
He's not doing near enough. I can
Oh,
tell you
gosh.
that.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't upset, but I was just trying to figure out. I'm like, I don't do things like that. I said, now I don't know where I threw some trash out, and then I got to look, and I was like, and I said, and I went to him. I said, hey, where did you get this from? How did you get it? He said it was on the road. I said, okay. I said I was going to take my trash, and it must have flew off the trailer. And I recall so.
There
that's
is a
definitely
law
straight.
where you have to, like, when you haul stuff like that, I think even all the way down to a pickup that has to be covered.
Right.
I can't remember what it is, because I used to go to quarry and get stone on my truck, and they wouldn't let me leave unless that thing was covered, which I had to tarp, but,
The
there was some.
landfill will not take it unless you come in with tarp on it. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's definitely a strength because that's addressing the visual appeal part of
Right.
planning, which also impacts attracting new industry. Because if someone drives in and they just see trash on the road or, a couch on, which happens all the time in Rayford where I live, they're going to be like, ooh, this is
I
not.
think there need to be litter cameras like there are red light cameras.
Okay.
I don't know why they-
Get rid of all the Nick's Pick Quicks.
Yeah,
That'll clean up a mile either side of every one of those stores.
Oh, gosh.
clamshells.
I think it'll be. I think when people, and this is land use, but people have to take pride in what we can sit here all night and come up with all this stuff right here. But if people don't take pride and ownership in it,
You're right.
it's a lot of smoke.
It's
It's
a different
like
time.
And you gotta start with the kids in the grammar school.
So it's
That's
just,
what stopped smoking. When they started with the elementary schools talking to the kids about smoking, that stopped the parents.
And volunteering, nobody has a sense
That's a
of community
big
hardly anymore
everyday
except the older
concern.
people.
And it's, I don't understand it.
So I think we got enough strengths.
Yeah, I think we're good in all those
Opportunities and threats
categories.
to.
I did want to ask about public transportation in Scotland County.
Stats.
Yes, how's that looking?
They're it's looking good. They just went to they were doing a route, but they weren't having the adequate amount of usage to continue the route. So they went to a direct route. So like if somebody needs public transportation, like they have to go to the doctor or something. They call like a day ahead and say, hey, I need you to pick me up at 9:30. I have to be back at 10. So they went to a direct route, and they're seeing how that, and they implemented that the 1st of July. They're going to implement that 1st of July.
Why do you think there's a lack of usage in the public transportation system that we have?
Is that what you're saying? There's a lack of usage?
People are not using it.
They're
People are
not?
not using it. No. You had when they asked the scat drivers, they had they said they probably had maybe 10 individuals to ride for that 7 to however long they
It'd
are.
be interesting to see the numbers on that over the last few years.
Right, and that's why, and so with the fuel costs, maintenance of the vehicles and all that, instead of going from, because they have to go to each stop. When they go to their routes, they have to go to each stop, and I think each stop, when you drop somebody off, it's over 2 hours. So when they do the whole loop, it's a 2-hour time frame from when they go from the first stop to the last stop. But then you got to factor in, you got to drop people off in between wherever they're going. And so when you drop those individuals off, you got a 2-hour time frame, and then now you start back over, and then it's going to take you another 2 hours. So they're doing all this driving, and nobody's using the public transportation. So that's why they went to the direct route instead of the open route. People, nobody know. If I can call somebody to get a ride, or people just don't do public transportation.
Well, I guess again, that really tends more towards some of the county commissioners and the SCAT staff need to address than, or how would we put that in this?
So And I will say, if you look at any other comprehensive plan, all of these items are included. So I
Right.
know this doesn't feel like the planning board's responsibility, but somebody has to think about it and somebody has to put it down
At
on
least put it
paper.
in writing.
Right, it has to be documented, so this is part of that process. The way that we make it happen, the way that we implement it, or at least try to make it happen, is assigning responsible parties and timelines. That is the hardest step in the process, because a lot of times, no one really wants the finger pointed at them, like, you have to be in charge of this and you have to get it done by this time. So in Red Springs, for example, the way that we're approaching that is we're assigning points of contact. So if Red Springs wants to address a public transportation issue with seats, their point of contact will be Robeson County, will be seats of Robeson County. I'm trying to think of another, I literally have it right here. Code enforcement, now Robeson County is doing their code enforcement and their building inspections. So they're going to specifically reference those two parties as points of contact for that goal and action step. So these are kinds of the things that we have to start thinking through. And it is a very hard process because it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie, as someone who's writing these, it's a lot, but it's worth it in the end because it's documented. And since Scotland County, to my knowledge, does not have one of these already done, it would help you all in the future. Because as someone who's written grants before, grant programs always ask for some sort of background. What study have you done? What forethought have you given a specific issue that you're applying for funding for? So let's say it's a Parks and Recreation grant that we're applying for. Well, tell me when Scotland County has talked about, met about, developed ideas regarding Parks and Recreation. Well, great that you asked. Back in 2024, the Scotland County Planning Board developed a comprehensive land use plan that specifically referenced these parks needing upgrades or needing different features and like swing sets and things like that. So that's something that you would use to kind of support grant applications in the future, which is why this is important, because if you don't have it documented somewhere, you can't really support that, if that makes sense. So it's a big charge, I know. And it's hard, and I'm going through the same thing. It's hard for me too, because I'm working with municipalities that are losing population, that they don't see any hope. It's doom and gloom, and it can be really hard. But just focusing on the positives, focusing on the assets that do exist here, that's going to be the biggest thing.
It's hard if you make it hard.
Yeah.
It's a mindset. If you make it hard, it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just difficult.
It's difficult.
You know, but you gotta go with the flow and go with the punches. I mean, that's what it's for. If you make it hard, you know, it becomes hard. But if we can convey, it's all about how we convey what we're doing to every organization that we want to be a part of what we're doing. And if you get them excited, and sometimes, you know, you have to reignite the fire in individuals. And so once we do that, if we're excited about what we're doing, and then we say, okay, we want this person to be point of contact at the solid waste. And then you get them involved and then taking pride. So it can be done. You know, it's just a mindset.
It is. And so as far as housing goes, have you all had any uptick? Has there been any housing developer come before the planning board about like a tract of?
Well, there is one person that has been to the zoning office and had discussions. But that's as far as that has gone that we're aware of.
Okay.
There are individuals that are building properties, some spec houses, some custom. More this year, I think we had 2 new houses last year, 2023.
2 new homes were built in Laurinburg or in the county?
In the county.
In the whole county. But there's a number, well, some of the ones that are in construction now did start last year. But there's several new homes being built, but they're not developments.
And I think that's
But
kind
it
of,
makes you question, how, if you go 401 and you see all those houses being built in Hope County and Kerner County, and you like, how or what are they doing that we're not doing? You know what I'm saying? And-
Distance
It's
to
Fort Bragg,
Kennedy.
yeah.
Right.
Because I mean,
Distance
Parkton
to
has the
Kennedy.
same issue with their water and sewer system. It's outdated as well,
So
so.
should
I
we do more
understand.
marketing? You know?
What are you gonna
30-minute
market if
drive
you
to
don't
the
have the
gate is not
infrastructure?
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just-
we're within 50 miles of the gate, easily, mostly Scotland County. And I see a lot of wheelchair come to office, but they're wanting tracks, acreages. And, you know, I think if we're gonna have subdivisions, we need kind of designated areas, so, because our infrastructure is very expensive. If you can figure out where your most likely growth is gonna be, best there first. Get that going. Then you can start marketing, and then you might have these developers. But land available is another thing, because you got a lot of large landowners who buys up everything here
Hmm.
and sits on it. And, so you got to have the land. I don't know if that's something that, the county,
Needs to stop selling land.
no, the county don't have any control of that, because all the properties other than the county land that's already been owned by the county is individuals. But I think you could see it. It's just, we got to have the infrastructure.
And it looks like things headed south from Oak County, the north and northeast side of the county are probably the most promising.
Yeah, it's booming up there, but they're larger acre tracts. There was a
Mhm.
huge amount of land there that was subdivided. And it's been busted up in acres, like 20 acres, 10 acres, 5 different things. And they just boom because it's right there across the river and close to Oak County. And it gives them a little bit of land to have some horses or this or that, because there's people seeking that besides just a subdivision.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But if you don't have a structure there, infrastructure, or the available land, they're just gonna find all the road frontage you can and slap a house up instead of have a subdivision. And
Just like
I'd
they're
much,
doing.
Yeah.
North of Wagram.
Yeah.
Right inside of Oak County, house after house after house on one side.
to me, it's not, I mean, you look at Deercroft, for example,
It was a nice
it's
development.
there, but it don't just jump out at you as you
Right.
travel 501. It's kind of hidden. It's a nice little community and all, but it was designed to be that. So if you could get some areas where you could get infrastructure and get some set up like that, and not to say that houses are not needed, but one of the valuable things we got, and it's kind of funny because my in-laws where they live, there ain't a field left. There ain't a tree left. All you see is bulldozers, pipes, dirt, sediment fence there slapping homes up by the thousands. And after a while, it's like, where did nature go?
Right.
And one of the valuable things we still have is some rural agricultural
Yes.
land. And those views, I think, is a plus. I think people like that environment.
That's,
Um,
I agree.
But if we have a planned development, we need to kind of designate an area, you know, maybe even drop it back a few hundred feet off the road before everything
Yes,
starts.
sir.
I think it'd be more appealing to people.
Yes, sir.
Cause I go over to Hope County and some of those places, man, I wouldn't live in that subdivision if you paid for my house, paid me to live there. Cause here,
Pay $250 million
Yeah,
to
they're
live.
close together.
Somebody
Yeah.
touch your house.
then you got a neighbor you don't like and you look out the window, you can about slap them.
I know Jim Smith remembers this song back from the '60s. Little boxes, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky. Little boxes, and they all look just the same.
I ain't heard that one before.
That's an old Peter Paul Mary or something, I don't know. That's
That's before my time, Jay.
Oh, gosh. So one goal that Robeson County included in their comprehensive plan regarding subdivisions to encourage local access street connections between adjoining residential which have public roads and connections between parking lots of adjoining commercial developments. But I feel like that doesn't, I don't know if there's any areas where that would happen. And, cause I'm trying to think of like,
Not a
when I'm driving around, it's, because here in Laurinburg, there's really no commercial right next to residential and.
There's not much industry left.
Right.
But you talking about the incubator earlier, Daniel. I think we must have had a fast food incubator here. I believe we got like every one of them there is.
About
And then
See, that's a
another,
plus. We're the first stop coming from the beach where you can pull off exit and have food. And we're the last stop. I mean, for the thing, but there's a few other little towns that have McDonald's and stuff, but most of them, you gotta get off and drive a few miles. miles. And you come here Friday, Saturdays, more Friday, Saturday, when the beach traffic's going, you can hang up, you can get in a line, and the holiday weekends, it's atrocious.
So you said the first stop and the last stop?
Essentially, unless somebody disagrees.
Yeah,
with me.
people leave the
It's the
beach,
only
they leave
stop
10
between the
o'clock.
beach and Charlotte.
Yeah,
And we're about
yeah,
halfway to
10 o'clock.
Charlotte too.
Okay.
Yeah, they get here 12 o'clock for lunch on their way home.
Yep.
And coming down here, they can't get in at 4 o'clock. So they stop at 1 o'clock, get some lunch, and then drive 2 more hours to the beach.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's
I
definitely
bet you we've
something.
got the highest number of fast food restaurants per
gosh.
capita in the state.
Oh,
And that's something I hope, and I think the county, I've watched a few your meetings, I haven't watched them all, but I mean, that's something could probably be capitalized on, possibly more. I don't know, they may be milking it for all it's worth, I don't know, but that's.
Like a big neon sign on 74. fast food
Signage
capital
is a
of North
big one.
Carolina.
They're
Yeah.
getting ready to, I don't know if they're gonna implement it, but they're looking at, not that it would help the budget this year, but they've talked about, and this can go along with this, they talked about doing a quarter of a penny increase in sales tax, which would bring in like $1 billion or
oh, wow.
something,
A quarter opinion?
quarter of a
Might as
penny.
well go a whole
Talking about
penny.
the state,
No,
The
the
sales
county,
tax.
the county.
For food and stuff.
bringing how much?
oh, about, they said $1 billion.
I don't think a big,
No.
Probably
No,
million.
over some years, because they was talking about it because of the budget, because of the shortfall of the fundings. If they did a quarter of a cent, and it's documented, you go, they said $1 billion. I don't know over how many years, but if they did that, and they're trying to put that, they're talking about putting it on the referendum on the ballot for this election. If they go for
I know the
it.
county commissioners have been successful over the last few years. I think the tax rate was high as, what, 106 and change? And it's down to 99 now. So they have brought the tax rate down, but I don't know if they can balance the budget this year without doing something.
They trying to.
Where's the
without-
money going?
It's not.
Schools
It's
That's
big-
one thing I've learned.
schools
Yes,
a big
where's the
cost
money
for
going?
them, 'cause schools a huge cost, but there's tons.
You had
45% of the budget
Yeah,
goes to
budgets like
schools.
schools, yeah. Cause there's some
Are you
kind of
familiar with
school
tax
floor.
Changed?
School tax.
Can
form.
the school, could that be changed or
No, that's mandated by state law.
what
Well,
would
we
it?
have a school floor that no other county has, right?
Yeah.
And I
We're
was
the only one left.
been years and years and years ago when it explained to me, and I wouldn't dare try to explain it again, but it's apparently it's a huge hurdle to undo. But
Yeah.
It's one of the major costs for us.
This was developed back in the 60s or 70s to make sure that individual school systems had adequate funding to fund for teachers, buildings, student supplies, staff, the whole 9 yards. And over the course of years, all of the counties that were required to have that school floor minimum budget have been able to get away from that except for Scotland County. And it is a state mandated budget floor. You have to go through the legislature to get it.
And I don't know what's always held it up. I have not, but it's been a,
So do you think money's being misallocated towards the education system, whether it be, us hiring a superintendent and then firing them and
and then having to pay them out, but I
Right,
understand that's
another
like a
one.
normal one, but
Yeah.
I don't know how they missed that one when they've hired her. I mean, that was a big slap in the face for the school
Exactly.
board, and that's a tough one. That's a lot of money for a county this size.
$250,000 is a lot of money.
Huge to anybody, but especially to us. And I don't know. That's a subject I couldn't get on because I don't know quite all the details. But I know it seems like we're losing a lot of teachers though. I know in my daughter's schools, there's been times where there's teacher shortage, and it's frustrating because it's harmed some of my daughter's education because the next year they're not prepared.
There's definitely incompetent teachers working within our school systems.
There is. And but
I've realized that.
if
You're speaking it for yourself.
I'm speaking of firsthand experience.
he's
worked
been
with
there, he's seen it,
incompetent
he
staff
knows.
and faculty and leadership as well.
And I hope Mr. Baldwin's improved it. He seems to be making an effort. I mean, so far I was, been more impressed with what we had last time, but, is it the pay or is it just
Pay
the
is terrible.
leadership? That's
Pay
what
is
I'm
terrible.
saying. I mean, it's,
Leadership, the biggest thing I realized working at, I just want to talk about Shaw, but that's just where I've been this last semester, is that sometimes leadership is just focused on numbers, whether that's making sure we have all the students in the school for attendance, making sure, everybody's taking their necessary tests, things of that nature, but still like they're not being educated, unfortunately. So it's going back to that.
And sadly, that's the change in the system from 30 years ago.
yeah, it's like you've got all these
It's a
benchmarks to
number,
meet.
it's a number game, so you make sure you get your money.
Just trying to keep the boat afloat.
It's,
Instead of paying 100% attention and teaching the kids, you got to meet all this little criteria, and some of it may not be that important actually teaching, but I'm not in it, so I really don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be passing judgment, but that's what it seems to be. It's like a bunch of red tape that I always have to meet. And then, some of the teaching actually get neglected, it seems like, but I may be wrong.
And again, that's a social discussion
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
can have outside of here.
yeah, and definitely something, education will be referenced in the comprehensive plan because it's very important. But I'm wondering if the school floor tax, if that's something we could put as a goal or as a threat. I know it's not something
Well, it's
that,
definitely a threat.
okay. I
Depends on who you ask about that.
oh, okay.
Everybody's like, some see it as
There's
a
always
threat.
been against it because it's never been changed, and it seems like they've tried fighting it before and it got shot down. So I don't know. Just
Changing it, like decreasing the floor.
they're getting rid of it, but like you said, I guess you have to go through a state level.
It's just state legislature has to change it, but
Mhm.
who's opposed to changing it? I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's always got shot down. I don't know why. I mean, if it costs money, we wasted enough. We should have been able to afford it.
But definitely something I think would be beneficial to include in here so
Sure.
that it's documented that
Yeah.
this is a threat for Scotland County. So we've gone through and we have lots in all of our categories. The goals and action steps, if you all just want to take some time over the next view these goals, these are just some ideas that I've developed that you can use kind of to guide your thinking when talking about the goals and action steps. But I also encourage you to look at other comprehensive plans just to kind of get a better idea of what their goals and actions. And I can send all of that in a follow-up email, like an example that you can look at. But these are just some general goals that I've included. Ideally, we have like 4 action steps assigned to each of these goals, just ways that we could actually see that this is implemented and people to assign it to. But that's a lot for this evening. I kind of knew this would be a long one, but I don't want to keep anyone too long. And I know after a while our brains stop working. So I think we have enough for this meeting though. And I really appreciate all of the discussion. It's
So-
been very robust.
So are we gonna do the goals and action step as a planning and zoning board, or are we gonna reach out to those, organizations that we wanna partner with to include them with the goals and action step?
I need to talk to David about that, because I just don't know, as the council of governments, I don't know what our part would be in that process.
Right.
I would encourage you all as a planning board and as residents of the county to reach out and talk to the different connections you have and kind of get ideas for what goals you think other organizations or groups that you're a part of or churches, anybody have. And then I would say we would come back or even via email. I'm perfectly fine with us communicating via email, so we don't have to have 2-hour meetings. But that way we can go ahead and start adding those goals into this document. And then maybe in the future, we take that and then expand it to bringing other people into the table. But I have to talk with David about that to see. And I also don't know who would be responsible for organizing that because I don't think that's something the COG would organize.
Right.
I don't think that's something we've done in the past. Typically, it's the municipality or the county that organizes it and then the COG just comes and helps facilitate.
Right.
So we'd have to figure out how that would work.
Gotcha.
But for the purpose of the comprehensive plan, we definitely have great content to include. And I thank you all again for the robust discussion, the wonderful insight. And I will follow up with all of that information, the plans that we want to use as examples, just kind of homework, so to speak, for the goals and action steps. and the next steps for the plan. So,
And thank you for the refreshments.
oh, yes, no problem.
This is a unique county with unique circumstances that take some unique people to discuss it.
Yes.
And I think we've got a good group of people here, and thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, of course, of course.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
But I got to say, I'm gonna behave when I ask this. What part is Jean gonna have in our future plans of this?
None.
Oh, yeah, Jean doesn't
She's
work
not
for the
there.
COG
I
anymore.
thought you said Jean that did our,
She
what was
did.
her?
Yeah,
She was
I
part
did.
of it until
She was my
left.
manager, but then she left, so now I'm
I
doing
see your
it.
heart drop across the floor.
Well, let me tell you, if she was your manager, thank God she did not rub off on you.
Oh, gosh.
Okay? Thank you, you've been great.
We had
I'll
some
be
good
nice,
times.
told you to be nice.
But yeah, no, I understand the importance, and part of engaging the planning board, and something that's always been important to me, is I don't assume to know everything. I've been working in government for 2 years. So the extent of my experience is I just have a degree in political science, and I happen to enjoy grant writing. So I'm learning a lot by working with you all, and I really appreciate all the bits of knowledge that you give, because I'm thinking about all this stuff and putting it in the plan. And I did want to say, I think one of the big issues with the comprehensive plan that my colleague developed is that it just didn't look great. I did send him my format that I use, but I guess he just chose not to use it. So I'm just going to make it look better and a little more visually appealing, because the
Thank you.
county deserves to have a good quality product. So it is a very big document, so that takes time. And these are required by the general statute to have goals and to do, not a SWOT analysis specifically, but just to do some forward thinking and planning as a part of the comprehensive plan. So don't think all of your work is for naught, because it is required, and we've already met the survey public engagement component. So after we get done with this, you all will meet all that's required by the state. Thumbs up.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you, Randy.
And please take home these refreshments, because like I said, I cannot bring them home. That's all I
We
have.
will share them. We did not have a committee meeting, I'll be honest with you, Jim, you and John and Brooke and Thomas and I, my past month was absolutely dynamite. Is there a time that we can all get together and have that committee meeting?
Could we do it during work hours?
That's what I was
Right.
wondering. I know Jim and I could probably make our schedules work, but
What was it, we gotta go over to cemetery?
the cemetery stuff and possibly discuss a fine schedule or something like that. And
I also wanted to bring up something that happened this week, that I could pick y'all's brain about. We have nothing in our ordinance about recycle. And we do have a recycling thing, 2 projects that are coming up, and we have nothing in our ordinance about recycle.
Like 2 companies that want to.
You mean Jean let us down again? I'm sorry, did I say that out
Well,
loud?
until we know that we're missing these things, like as it happens,
Right.
we don't really think, we couldn't thought of everything, but
We
there's.
need, when I get around to revising the ordinance, subdivision ordinance, hopefully, we keep talking about, we need to put in there about, the utility companies want to do little 60 by 60 parcels that don't meet the minimum lot
I
size.
have
We
that
need to
in
put
our
something in.
to-do list.
Yeah, we need to put something there. I'm sorry. That just come to mind when you talk about it.
Every time you bring up something randomly like that, I put it on a list so that I won't forget.
Well, Sabrina
we
did,
go
and she
to-
lost it somehow, and I could have choked her, but
But we have 2 places that, are you familiar with the, oh, my brain just let it, because it is 8:00.
is it outdoors airport?
No,
what are these new recycling facilities, private, public,
compost facility.
private?
So, no, it is the,
County or state maintenance or something like that?
I'll be looking for it if you want to.
Then pick a date, pick a date and a time.
During the week, give me.
Earlier or later.
So our next regular
Monday,
meeting,
Friday night.
you want to be on that agenda, right?
Yes, let's go ahead.
And that's gonna be on the 17th of July.
Okay.
And so far, I don't have anything else on that, so, do you wanna, Jim, do you wanna do it around then, or,
I'd like to, not this week, but next week, if we can work it one day next week.
okay? Well, I'm here from 8 to 5 every day, so
Yeah, I
whatever
mean-
works for you all, if you wanna do it within the work hour.
If y'all set a day and time, I'll just kind of block it out and we can come over here and meet if you like to.
So I guess, Mr. Smith and McMillan, whatever works for y'all better.
All right, is it better for you to get out and get done early so you can go get out?
Whatever, what do you want? Y'all want latter afternoon or morning?
I was thinking morning.
I don't care.
Wait a minute.
I'm usually up by 6:30 anyway.
Like
Like
9:30,
9:30,
10 o'clock would be better, then I can kind of get everybody
9:30
going and
10.
get them out the door and get
All right, why
everybody.
don't we say 10 o'clock?
Everything everywhere.
10 o'clock, Wednesday the 26th.
Yeah. I can do that.
Okay.
10 a.m. We're meeting here.
Yeah, we can, I can have this room marked off for a small conference room down there. I mean, it's easier for everybody here.
Whatever's convenient.
I think here'll be fun.
Wednesday, June 26th at 10 a.m.
And so that's Mr. Smith, Mr. McLean, Mr. McMillan, and Thomas.
You and Thomas, that's what we had talked about before.
Okay.
What this little committee we're having, we have had a circumstance a couple of times where we wanted to have a family burial on family ground. We do have an ordinance about private cemeteries, and it gives specifics on whatever it needs to be. But the bad thing about it is somebody dies and the next day they go to the zoning office and says, we want to bury it there in 2 days.
Do you want me to-
And the process takes probably 3 weeks, you know, to get through all the zoning. So what we're looking at trying to do is
And then that way we can have
maybe have a
everything
waiver,
new email together.
which is not in
Thank
our
you so much.
ordinances.
Thank you.
And then for those that, like this last time, the family that had the issue was explained about the ordinances.
Hopefully, the
And they
biggest
chose
thing
to
is
ignore it.
doing the homework of like the goals and action
And
steps.
did the
So
burial.
y'all can go ahead and have ideas that will
Anyway.
help us shorten it up.
So we also need to have some discussion on how to address purposeful disobedience. I guess that's a polite way to say it.
No, you did fine.
Question, will I receive, I guess, your notes that you wrote?
Yeah, I can send that too.
Ms. Brooke, do you
Yes, sir.
need my email or do I need to give you a
I'm
direct
I'm
email?
sending that to her right now.
Yeah, I have, so I'm going to follow up with an email to everyone, just kind of talking about what we discussed in this meeting. And then also giving some action steps for you all, which basically will just be looking at the goals and kind of thinking about if you want to change any of the goals that are in the document that you had on page 4, if you want to change any of the goals and who might be the best fit for those goals. And then also specifically action steps that we could take to make those goals happen, to come to fruition. So those are just some things to consider. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too, just communicating with the different connections, organizations that you all are a part of, and seeing if they have any ideas. The chamber is a big one, because typically the chamber, you all have an economic development commission here as well. So I'm gonna talk to David to see if that's someone I could engage, because I think that they would be a really good asset to this planning process also. And,
I feel like so many other committees and boards can give us so much more insight.
yeah, so typically when big companies are completing these plans for counties or towns, they just kind of use like a cut and dry. It's the same thing for all of the counties and all of the towns. So when we start getting into specific goals, which is what I think that you all want for the county, it's gonna take some more kind of like you all being specific and intentional about it. So versus just saying enhancing parks and recreation throughout Scotland County. Okay, what parks specifically need to be improved? How can we improve them? Who's responsible for doing that? So we have to think a little deeper about it, which makes it a little more complicated. But I'm gonna talk to David tonight because there's a lot I wanna do. I want to make this a great plan, and there's a lot I want to be responsible for engaging. I know you all are volunteers, but also I'm doing like 5 other projects right now. So it just comes down to how we can get people involved. So if you all want to have the conversations with your connections, I think that would help us a lot. Just to talk to them about what they think are goals that we should include. Mhm.
Can we invite them to just come to the meeting?
You can do
I was
that
thinking
too.
about that.
Yeah. You could do, I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable with that. I'm not shy. Sorry, my husband's like, I'm coming home. I'm not shy. I will talk with anyone. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that we have it very structured. So part of that is going to be the groundwork, which will be the email I send you, just kind of doing that to make sure when they show up, we know what we're talking about already and we can lead the conversation for those groups, which I would need you all to be engaged with as well.
Okay.
So.
They told me this board would be easy.
Yeah, the comprehensive planning process, it is a large undertaking. So,
I'm just disappointed we didn't take this up 10 years. I don't know why the county didn't take it up 12 years ago. when it
yeah,
was
that's the
presented.
state realized, they're like, no.
Anyway, they didn't, and it's on us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. If you, I'll be back. I have to make a
Do you
few jokes, so.
Cafeteria.
If we'll adjourn, we'll help you.
Something
Okay.
All right, any additional business we need to take care of tonight? If not, we have a
So
motion
moved.
to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
Yeah, we have a movement. Yeah, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Likes opposed?
Everybody grab something.
What day is the meeting again? The TNA? What day is the meeting again?
It's the
July
third
16th.
Wednesday.